That has to do with my fifth pillar, which is mental balance and mastery. And so you approach everything from what I refer to as a positive mindset and a growth mindset. So nothing, you don't say to yourself at all, I can't. You say to yourself, how do I learn to? And so any shortcoming you identify in yourself is a challenge to you and an opportunity for growth.
Hello, hello. Welcome to another Pulse Beat episode sponsored by Cardio Miracle. We are so excited to have Dr. Steven Sidoroff with us today. My name is Josh Hewlett, your host as always, and we would like to introduce him real quick. I'm going to read his bio so that you can get to know him. Dr. Steven Sidoroff is an internationally recognized expert in resilience, optimal performance, addiction, neurofeedback, and integrative approaches to mental health. He is an associate professor at UCLA's School of Medicine with appointments in psychiatry, biobehavioral sciences, and rheumatology, and serves as director of the Raoul Wallenberg Institute of Ethics. With over 40 years of experience, Dr. Sidoroff has pioneered innovative mind-body treatment models used worldwide, working with elite athletes, executives, addiction recovery programs, and international medical institutions. He is the author of the 9 Pillars of Resilience and Success and a leader in applying neuroscience, biofeedback, and behavioral medicine to peak performance and healing. We are so honored and excited to have you on the show today, Dr. Steven. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Josh. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. Yeah, thank you so much for, not many people are too opposed to sitting through a wonderful introduction about themselves and how accomplished they are. So I hope that wasn't too bad. So,
No.
please tell us how long have you been teaching, and how long you've been a professor, and how well has that gone for you?
Well, I love the work that I do, partly because I'm able to do a lot of different things. I'm a professor at UCLA. I've been at UCLA since 1976. I was a professor at McGill University in Montreal before that, doing research before that. But I also speak, give workshops, do research. I have a very interesting research project going on right now around resilience and cellular aging. And I'm most excited and appreciative of the opportunity I have to help people become more resilient and more adaptive to the environments they're in, both individuals, organizations, and I do a lot of work with executives as well. So uh, my position gives me the opportunity to do a lot of different things, and I enjoy each one of the things that I do.
That's amazing. Sounds amazing, and it sounds like you meet so many different people, throughout that come in and out of your life, and so as you have been learning all this and going through all this, have you seen a big part of your practice revolve around like health and wellness?
Well, most of my practice and my work is around health and wellness, but health is emotional, physical, mental, spiritual, and it brings in all of those. And it's really about optimal functioning, or as I've worked with executives and athletes, it's really about peak performance and how to bring all of the principles of behavior, learning, and psychology all together so that you deal with everything in the most optimal way and you wind up resulting in being more successful and effective in your life.
I love that. I love that. So as you're working with athletes, like are you working within the programs with UCLA, or is it outside of that?
Both. I've worked with the UCLA men's basketball team, their women's golf team, but I've also worked with the U.S. men's national soccer team and other teams and professionals and Olympic athletes as well. And then I've adapted the lessons in peak performance with athletes to working with executives and organizations as well, because the principles are the same whether you're trying to break the record for the mile, or whether you're trying to be most effective as a leader of an organization.
Absolutely. And so as you go into like an organization and kind of do a training or a speech, as you will, is there like a program that you lay out for them and go through it?
Yes. So I have programs designed to help people function better. So when I go into an organization, what does that look like? It's a systematic approach to functioning in the most optimal way, which means fewer physical symptoms, better physical health, emotional health, better communication among the people in an organization. So it's both the peak performance of the individual, but as it impacts the entire organization, it also means that relationships improve. It means that people feel more comfortable being more creative, taking reasonable risks to achieve greater results because they're more creative and they are less worried about, a lot of times we hold back because we're afraid of making a mistake or we're afraid of how people are going to judge us. Well, part of my program and the design of my programs is to make it easier for people to take steps to improve both their own functioning as well as the functioning of the organization. So everybody benefits from these types of programs.
Sounds like it. And I would love to hear, if you will, how did this all come about for you in your life?
I began early on in my career when I started working in the field of addiction. One of the things that stood out right away was that people who've become abstinent, who've kind of gone through the initial stage of detox and being clear of whatever substance they were addicted to, are very vulnerable, and they're vulnerable to relapse. And the most important factor in their vulnerability to relapse is how they handle the stresses in their lives. Well, very quickly, I realized that no matter who I'm working with, no matter who it is, that same principle holds. In all of our lives, stress is one of the main modulators of how well or how difficult we perform in our lives. And so that told me that I needed to help people handle stress in the most optimal way. But that led to a bigger conversation and a bigger process of research on my part into the fact that most people actually have resistance to dealing with their stress. I mean, if I polled your audience right now, I would find two things that are true for most. Number one, stress and chronic stress is something that's really something significantly impacting them in their lives. And number two, it's one of the most difficult things to deal with. And so that led through my own research into some of the factors that make it difficult for all of us to deal with stress that is so important. And recently I published an article in Psychology Today I called The Four Horsemen of Stress. And these are four structural factors in all of our lives that literally make us prone to suffering from the effects of chronic stress. We're literally designed to fail when it comes to stress and dealing with stress. And if I was to say, what's the ultimate goal of successfully dealing with stress? It's to bring our nervous system into a place of balance And then whenever our nervous system is thrown out of balance, which is what stress does, it activates our nervous system. And so we want to be able to bring ourselves back into this place of balance after stressful situations. But, think about your own life, and you realize, and your audience as well, is that in our day, we have many stimuli that trigger threat, danger, which activates our stress response. And we go from one stressful situation to another. But our nervous system is not designed that way. Our nervous system is designed with two branches, not just the stress response branch called the sympathetic branch, but the recovery branch, the parasympathetic. And we need these two systems to be in balance. What does balance look like? It looks like when we engage the stress response and activate our nervous system, we need to pay attention to a recovery process where we do some kind of relaxation, some kind of going offline to recover that place of balance. And so what happens in most of our days is we activate, then activate, then activate. And very quickly in our day, we're stretched the resources of our bodies. This is one of the primary sources of physical symptoms, emotional distress, and literally cognitive impairment, less optimal functioning in our brains. A couple of years ago, I hosted a summit on longevity. And one of the factors of longevity, stress. Stress speeds up the aging process. Okay. So we all have to find this place of balance, but it's not easy. We have to have the intention and make the decision that this is important for us to do in our lives to somehow find the path, as I refer to it, of restoring balance. And that is the basis behind my model of resilience, the 9 pillars of resilience, and the book that lays out my book, the 9 pillars of resilience, the proven path to master stress, slow aging, and increase vitality. And so it lays out my 9 pillars, but it also lays out the process for achieving that I call the path. And here's the other thing that I've discovered in all of my work is how easily, we all know this. This is January, right? And so in January, it's a new year. Everybody says, okay, what do I want to do differently this year? What do I want to achieve this year? And it's a challenge because we have good intentions, but we go off the rails very easily, very quickly, because we're pulled in so many different directions.
Yeah.
And when we get pulled in different directions, we lose our focus, we lose a sense of our goals, and we lose that vision.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I lay out in my book is this notion of the path. Okay. So instead of being overwhelmed, okay, what do I do today to deal with stress? I have to have this, I have this, I have this. I have to eat right, I have to exercise, I have to think right, I have to deal with my emotions. And pretty quickly, we get overwhelmed, right? It's like the patient who goes to the doctor for stress-related problems, and the doctor says, well, John, you have to get more sleep. You have to stop drinking. You have to stop smoking. You have to get more exercise. And John walks out of the doctor's office saying, I got to get a different doctor. Because a lot of these things are uncomfortable, difficult, we don't want to hear. So the notion of the path is that it's alongside of you every moment of every day. And all you have to do today to be successful is take a few steps based on my model of resilience, and it will put you on the path. And now I'm on the path. There's no questions. There's no uncertainty. I'm there. I'm on the path because I took these steps. I can celebrate that. I could feel good about my day. And as we stay on the path, it takes you to greater and greater resilience and optimal functioning. And anytime you fall off the path, you got the steps based on my model of resilience that tell you how to get right back onto the path.
I
And
love it.
so it's a way of staying focused. In fact, starting next week, I'm going to do what I call a 10-day steps to greater power in 2026, which will give people the first 10 steps of how to live your life in 2026 to achieve greater resilience.
That's awesome. I love that. And it's not an, what do people call it? New year, new me. It's like it's more of a let's get back on this path where you're doing well, but you you we all do fall off very easily. People are telling me I'm self proclaiming here, but I used to be a strongman competitor, so I would lift up cars and flip telephone poles, and I was almost 500 pounds. I was 480 pounds. So I have been at this journey since 2021, um, where I've lost 200 pounds. I'm down to 280, and now
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, but you can see my stress right here. It's all my gray hair on my beard. But the thing is like whenever I have this base, this foundation of my non-negotiables, which are I have to get my steps in every day, and my steps are 12,500 steps a day. That's for me. That's 7 miles. And whenever I'm falling off the path, whenever I eat something bad, or if I don't work out or something, if I don't lift weights, then I always know that I can get my steps because I can walk anywhere. And just walking for me is therapeutic enough for me to get back on my path of and not beat myself up. And so it's been amazing, but I've been on that path for 1,750 days straight. I have not missed a day.
Congratulations. That's fantastic. Good for
Thank
you.
I appreciate it. I should have got to 480, but I had excuse. I had to lift heavy things, but it was fun in my 30s and 20s, and now I'm in my 40s, and now I want to take care of my heart and be a product of the product, which our wonderful sponsor, Cardio Miracle, is 58 whole and organic fruits and vegetables, and so we promote health and longevity as well, which is right in line with what you're doing with the 9 pillars, which I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And, you mentioned the past, and a lot of people get stuck thinking about what they regret about the past. And I like to tell people that you want to live a life with no regrets. It doesn't mean that a regret doesn't come up. It doesn't mean you don't look back and see something that you wish you didn't do. What it does mean is that you don't continue to carry that regret with you. So the regret can be there, but now it's your responsibility to find the way to let go of the regret. And you do that by owning your feelings, experience the feelings. Okay, I feel sad or I'm angry with myself for what I did in the past. So you give yourself the space to feel the feelings without putting yourself down. And that's a key. And that's my pillar number one is your relationship with yourself, which needs to be a loving, not judgmental relationship. And that's an important step onto the path.
I love it.
But you allow for the feelings. And then what's the lesson to be learned by my behavior that I don't like in the past, so that moving forward, I'm less likely to do it again. And then you let go because you say to yourself, holding on to that doesn't help me moving forward. It only holds me back. It's like a ball and chain. In fact, one of the biggest things holding all of us back are the lessons of our childhood, the learnings of the environment in which we grew up, which we didn't have a say in. We didn't determine that environment, and we didn't determine the lessons. We absorbed them through modeling. We absorbed them through trying to survive childhood by staying on the good side of our givers. But as an adult, we can't use that anymore as an excuse, because an excuse might feel good temporarily, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So we need to learn how to uproot ourselves from the anchoring to the past, and have a vision of a healthy relationship with yourself and the environment moving forward. So you're continually optimally adapting to changes in your environment, which are happening faster and faster. And you
Absolutely.
only can do that if you learn new, healthy lessons and let go of the old lessons.
That's amazing. And so with I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but it's so interesting to me with that relationship with yourself. I hear a lot that your thoughts that you're talking to yourself all day, that your brain doesn't know the difference between, "Oh, you're so stupid. Oh, why did I just do that?" or whatever. Like, it doesn't know that you're being facetious. And so, do you talk about some of that psychiatry or psychological talk, self talk, and whatnot?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my book covers mind, body, spiritual, physical, emotional, and that's part of it.
It's huge.
We have to awaken in the moment that we are doing the negative self talk, because it's automatic behavior and we typically are doing it throughout our day. And so we have to begin by saying, it doesn't serve me, which means I need to start noticing, awakening to when I do that. And when I do that, I have to start setting a boundary. I have to start saying, no, this is the old pattern. It doesn't serve me. It's lessons learned in childhood, not lessons that I chose. And so now I have the opportunity, because I just awoke to what I was doing. Now I have a choice. So you awake to the moment in order to have the choice. And the choice is to do it in a healthy way. And that has to do with my fifth pillar, which is mental balance and mastery, sometimes referred to as mindset. And so you approach everything from what I refer to as a positive mindset and a growth mindset. So nothing, you don't say to yourself at all, I can't. You say to yourself, how do I learn to? And so any shortcoming you identify in yourself is a challenge to you and an opportunity for growth. And so this is part of being on the path. And it's an ongoing process of continual growth and development. And everybody wants to engage in this process because the results are physically healthier, slowing the aging process, emotionally healthier, healthier relationships, and finding meaning and purpose in your life so that you have a more happy and fulfilling and successful life.
That's amazing. And what I love, what I'm hearing is that when we do get stuck inevitably, right? That we are able to have that paradigm shift where we do get back on the path and keep pressing forward, And I love that because um I was growing up, I was always kind of conditioned to believe that, like, like a depression is like a mindset rather than like an actual condition. And so, do you go into that kind of stuff, like, depression, anxiety, and things of that nature?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll preface it by saying that there are genetic predisposing conditions such as deficits in neurotransmitters in the brain that can predispose us to depression. But having said that, a lot of depression is the result of lessons learned in childhood, such as it's not okay to be angry, it's not okay to cry, and many other reasons why we push down our feelings. But you see, feelings have energy attached to them. You notice this, if you're angry, your body is activated, right? Well, if we're not going to express that, and if we're going to decide that we shouldn't and it's not okay to be angry, then we cut off the awareness of anger even before we could notice it. But that process of pushing down feelings, of depressing feelings, and literally holding them in our bodies is the source of much depression. Rules that we've learned in childhood of don't do this or constraining us. Um, I don't want to dance because I might look silly. All of these things contribute to depression. Same thing is true with anxiety. Anxiety, uh, a lot of anxiety is because may have learned that that's the way that my mother or my father approached problems. They started out with being anxious because they didn't feel they could handle the problem. They couldn't solve the problem. So instead, they became anxious. But we learned to model that. Or we learned in our childhood that environments are dangerous, and so we expect danger. That's our negative mindset. Well, if you expect danger when you walk out your door, you're going to be anxious.
Yeah.
If you're on your way to work and you expect something bad to happen, some judgment from somebody else at the office, you're going to approach work from this anxious perspective. All of this is addressed in my book, where I talk about the benefits of having positive expectations, but also recognizing where the negative expectations come from. So you address it. You don't just pave over the lessons of childhood. We have to uproot those lessons so that when we have visions of the healthy approach, they actually take root. And when I say take root, what am I talking about? I'm literally talking about our ability through neuroplasticity to literally redesign the neural networks in our brain, because they're all based on the choices that we make.
Love it. And, as you're talking, what's going on in my mind is like, first of all, you're a full-time psychiatrist, I think, in your book. And a
Psychologist,
psychologist,
psychology.
psychologist. And also that the power of manifestation. Do you talk about that as well, with rewiring your thought pattern and things of that nature?
Absolutely. I don't necessarily use the word manifestation, but I use the word intention.
And okay.
Intention and vision. And with intention and vision, you're sending your thoughts, your thinking, and your body in a positive, healthy direction. And the more consistently you do that, the more you're shifting what goes on in your brain. But think about it this way. If I go into the office and I'm worried, I go into the office and I'm concerned and I'm thinking someone may be judging me, I am going to give off energy that can repel other people. And it may be simply in my facial expression, because my nervousness, my tension in my facial expression, through our evolutionary process, has taken on evolutionary significance, where in hunter-gatherer days, if they see you having that kind of expression, it tells them danger, right? So you're walking into a meeting and people look at you and you're presenting them with danger. Or they may start projecting their fears and worries onto you, and they may think, oh, he's judging me, right? And then that affects how they relate to you. On the other hand, if you go in with a positive expectation, you have a whole different continence. Your voice sounds different because your vocal cords are more relaxed. And you send a very different unconscious message to other people that are in the room with you. And I say unconscious because a lot of this is instinctual and we relate on this instinctual level. But here's another interesting thing. I know you're cardio miracle, but let's talk about cardio for a moment.
Yeah.
Our heart rate patterns are vulnerable or susceptible to our emotional state. Okay. So the optimal heart rate pattern is what's called coherence. And this is a pattern that when you breathe in, your heart rate speeds up. And when you breathe out, your heart rate slows down. And the goal is to have this nice, synchronous, coherent pattern, which literally helps the physiology in your body. Okay. When we are in a place of gratitude and love, it facilitates and amplifies this coherent pattern. However, when we are in a state of upset, frustration, anger, that pattern becomes chaotic. So it's on one level, it's telling us the more we stay in a positive state, the more we are literally directing our nervous system into a healthier state, which has implications for our physical health. Okay. But here's something very interesting, Josh. If you and I right now were in the same room and we were standing next to each other, and I put one of my electrodes that I use when I monitor brainwaves, electroencephalogram, and I monitored your electroencephalogram, I would be able to pick up my heart rate pattern in your EEG.
Wow.
Because the heart is the biggest engine in the body and transmits to people close in proximity. So you're picking up my heart rate pattern. And as I said before, if I'm in a positive state, you'll pick up one pattern. If I'm in a fearful, judgmental, critical, nervous state, you'll pick up a very different pattern. I don't know yet. The research has not been done yet to determine how that transmission of my cardiovascular pattern into your EEG, how that is impacted within you. But I would say it makes a difference. And it's part of why when we're near some people, we sort of want to back away. And when with other people, we want to embrace them.
Yeah.
And so all of everything that we're talking about here ties together and is part of this whole resilience model and optimal functioning model that I've talked about and written in my book about.
Yeah, I've been told that my ability to kind of erase people from my life if they're negative or whatnot, it's not really a skill. It's more of like a defense mechanism. And so I wonder from someone like you, and I don't want to bring any negativity to this at all, but I'm just wondering what's a big misconception that you've seen throughout your career that you've been able to kind of repattern that?
Well, right now, what I've been focused on when it comes to what we're talking about is how we're literally designed to be out of balance, out of this place of regulation that I'm talking about. So we have the evolutionary mismatch. Okay. We still have the fight or flight stress mechanism of the survival mechanism of our hunter gatherer ancestors. Our civilization has tremendously evolved to an environment that's totally different than the hunter-gatherer environment, where fight or flight was appropriate, but we still have that mechanisms. Again, back to any of our daily situations, if we're worried about a bill to be paid, if we're worried about our job, if we're worried about if someone in our life is upset with us, all of these things activate our stress response because these are dangers, these are threats, and our body activates as if we're going to either fight the danger or run from it, which we're not going to do. So it it is our bodies are designed to go out of balance because of this mismatch. I've already discussed the developmental mismatch. So we adapt to our childhood environment. We learn how to deal with that environment by being on guard, perhaps when we're with a mother or father that's critical and judgmental. But then we take that into our adult environment where it's not appropriate. And so again, there's that mismatch. But here's another interesting mismatch. Not quite a mismatch, but one of the four horsemen of stress. Think about all the successes in your life, and the audience as well. And I guarantee that almost all of your successes, accomplishments have been accompanied by stress. Okay. I had the good fortune early in my career when I was a professor at McGill University to have as one of my mentors one of the pioneers in neuroscience, Donald Hebb. And he's actually the one who coined the phrase, neurons that fire together, wire together. And so we have wired together success and stress. And so we're literally wired to look for stress in our lives because we've unconsciously learned it's connected to success. So again, what's been most important in my education and my research and my work on stress, resilience, optimal functioning is all of these factors that want to throw us off the place of balance. And it indicates how important it is for us to consciously, intentionally, and actively, not passively, but actively engage in a process to restore and stay in a place of balance.
Perfectly said. Yeah. And so with that, I mean, we don't really talk politics or talk like religion or anything like that. But in in the Bible, I've noticed and I've been told that the word anxiously engaged is much different than the word we use, the way that we define anxiety, right? And so being anxious or being anxiously engaged in something isn't necessarily a negative thing in like the biblical sense, but we've kind of turned it into that. And is that kind of indirectly because we're almost addicted to stress in a way?
Well, that's a very good point. We are addicted to stress because when we're stressed, it gives us a shot of adrenaline. And so, particularly for people who are depressed, who don't feel alive in their lives, stress and activating that adrenaline rush may be the only time that these people many of us feel alive. And so there is an addictive aspect to this, as you mentioned. But it's interesting. One way of defining the work that I do is to say that I help people adapt optimally and in a healthy way, adapt to their environment. Okay. To have the appropriate level of activation for the particular situation that you're dealing with, right? And to make the appropriate interpretation of situations so that you're not due to negative expectations, you're not getting stressed and worried and feeling threatened when there's no reason for it. And so, worry and other things like that. But I've realized that for a lot of the time, I'm helping people adapt to either toxic or stressful environments because our leaders don't know how to create healthy environments for their constituencies. Instead, they create conflictual environments. They create environments where there's a lot of uncertainty. They create environments in which they pit one person against the other, et cetera, et cetera. They create environments that divide rather than bringing people together. That's why this past year, I launched my new podcast called Quantum Leadership. And it's a new approach to leadership in which we're looking at the qualities, characteristics of top level, next level executive leadership function so that we begin to train leaders to be tuned in to the environments that they are creating, the culture of the environments they're creating, to create resilient environments as well.
That sounds amazing. Yeah, I was going to ask you about your about what else you're doing. So that's thank you for throwing that out there. So where can people find your podcast?
So if they go to my website, you'll be able to sign in to my podcast. Also, we've been talking about the 9 pillars of resilience. If you go to my website, you'll be able to download my resilience assessment booklet. And there, you'll be able to take my assessment and self-score your results and get your own profile along my 9 pillars of resilience. Sign up for my podcast as well. And one other thing I'm doing right now, which I'm very excited about, I'm doing a quantum experiment. And so I've been inviting people to volunteer to be a participant in this quantum experiment to determine the impact of our intention and our vision. There's a lot of evidence now that we have power beyond what we can touch in real time at a distance, right? I'm testing this out where I'm inviting people to sign up and be part of this experiment. It's simple. It doesn't take much time, but 6 times in the next year, for 5 minutes, you will visualize and focus on a particular intention. And we're going to see if I get enough people to focus and visualize, if we actually can get a change in reality based on people's intentions. So that's also on my website.
It's amazing. I love it. And so where if people go on like social media and such, do they look up your name or do they look up 9 pillars? What do they look up?
Well, first of all, my website is drstephensidoroff.com. And that would be one of the first places to go to. You'll see my assessment. You'll see my podcast. You could sign up for that. It'll take you there. You could sign up for the experiment as well. But I am on all social media. So if people put in my name and subscribe to any of my channels, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, etc., you'll get my posts. And I post usually, 4 or 5 times a week where I give these messages. And as I said, starting next week, I'm going to have the first 10 steps of what I refer to as having a powerful 2026 based on my model of resilience.
Amazing. Yeah, and so what our company goal is and our mission statement is to save the hearts of mankind. I mean, we want to save 100 million hearts with the power of nitric oxide and whole and organic fruits and vegetables. And so we are very excited to have you on the podcast. We like to introduce and talk to very interesting, qualified people that who have done amazing things. And what it sounds like when we've been talking, that you have a similar mission as well, that you're wanting to help and help as many people as you can to help and develop their their life and to be less stressed. I mean, that's in and of itself, that is a huge goal, and it's such a worthy goal of everything that we want to encompass as well. So thank you so much for being on here. Is there any in 90 seconds that you could sum up the best takeaway that our audience could take away from you?
Well, based on my model, the best takeaway, aside from learning about the 9 pillars, is one, treat yourself from a place of love and acceptance and compassion. Number two, live your life from a place of a growth and positive mindset. Number three, find some regular practice that you can do that engages the recovery branch of your nervous system. Those would be the best messages for your audience right now.
That's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, we're definitely going to put up your website on the recording, and I'm excited to get your book. I'm going to go on and take the assessment myself, and I've got some intention, some very clear intentions that I want to accomplish in the next 12 weeks and in 2026 altogether. Appreciate your time, Dr. Steven, and really appreciate your insight and your knowledge. And thank you everyone for being a part of the podcast of the Pulse Beat with sponsored by Cardio Miracle. And we're so blessed to have an opportunity to have you on the podcast, Dr. Steven Sidoroff. We appreciate your time.
Thank you very much, Josh. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.